Well, paranormal video evidence 10-year compilation from the channel calling itself Project Paranormal. This video has over 1,000 views, and yeah, basically I'm going to skip the little introduction bit, which I think I've done there. So if I miss any of the stuff here, then I guess that's the thing. But it's worth watching something like this, just simply to get through it and see what they reckon, see what they offer. The channel itself, as I say, is Project Paranormal. If you want to check it out, you can do. I myself will take it with a grain of salt, but they seem to be reasonable. You know, most people out there are reasonable. They go out there, they get something they can't explain, and they go, perhaps it's a ghost, perhaps. And some people are a bit not so reasonable, and they go, it is a ghost, or it is a demon, like in previous videos where I've noted several people who are fruitier than fruitcake. But they are fruitcakes. They're fruit and nut cakes. But in any case, let's watch the evidence.
I guess covering your ears.
Because they don't want to know what happened.
Band issues doesn't. It just said Texas. I have no idea what that means.
I said what?
Texas.
Did you have anything
Why do I have this picture on here?
to do with the bounty
It's
hunter?
probably on my camera.
Oh, okay.
Probably
What is
some
Now
other
it says Columbus.
bad one of me. Trying to take care of myself.
Oh. Sorry. I'm trying to figure out like the
Girlfriend just
flash
touched my back. Not cool. Don't touch my back.
What happened?
They just touched my back.
Was that you who touched your back?
Don't touch me.
I always think it's a bit funny. I know I keep on interrupting myself and interrupting these videos, but when people say they've been touched, you know, they're out in the dark and they think they feel some kind of touch. If I get something like that, it's just a random itch or tick or something, I don't take it seriously. But apparently, if you have that when you happen to be in a very dark location, your mind's working overtime, and it's got an alleged like haunting story, or there's a medium in the room or whatever, or you detect some kind of phenomena some other way, you know, alleged phenomena, then yeah, apparently that's taken very seriously, even though it might not be. I'm not saying it's bullshit. I'm just saying that, you know, it might be bullshit. People get weird sensations all the time. They write it off. You know, like, oh, I'm just scratching my arm. Why? Oh, just a little itch. Okay. You sit down funny. It's like you've got an ache in the back. I mean, you spend your time in the dark. That's not really important, being in the dark. You spend your time, you know, on edge. Perhaps you're getting a bit of adrenaline from, you know, going around a haunted location. You're a little bit like, ugh. And yeah, you feel something, even if you don't actually end up being, you know, chemically different in any reasonable way, any, you know, profound way. You don't end up being affected by any kind of bad pattern seeking. You feel a little itch or something. You go, oh, that's like someone touched me or scratched me, and then a person touches where they were itched, and perhaps they scratched themselves by accident, and then it's called evidence afterwards. But I digress. I've spoken about this in previous videos.
Did you hear her? She told you not to touch her. You hear that?
Okay, here's the ones that you just took.
Oh, you can see them kind of.
There's like a little bit of dust or something. Oh, that's a person. That's okay. The living room. Yeah. No other living people there. Okay. It's convenient. A lot of these things are out of controls, isn't it? You know. Like, a door's moving, you don't get to see the bottom of the door in most cases. A door could be, well, you end up with low quality video, typically, like so if it's an illuminated room, a door closes, you see the whole door, you don't get to see the whole room, usually, even though you can record in two directions with most mobile phones now, or at least many of them. You get low quality, so you don't see any string or fishing wire or whatever. But yeah, you get that kind of stuff. But with this kind of thing shaking, it's like, damn, you don't see the camera. Well, you wouldn't, 'cause it's set up that way to see the door. It jiggles. or seems to. There's some movement there. What caused it? We don't know. You know, no living person was there apparently. You know, that's probably true, probably. But yeah, you know, it just seems like there's no real explanation for that. We're going to call it a poltergeist. Is there any other stuff thrown around? Shall we see if there is? Oh, if my thing will work. There we are. Okay.
If there is a spirit here that understands me, thank you.
Freaking way.
Come here, come here. Let's talk to him.
Hold on, I won't.
Don't worry about it. To prove that you are an intelligent spirit.
I always think these things are kind of bullshit. You know, like you're detecting a fluctuation in the electromagnetic spectrum, I suppose. Electromagnetic field. So, sort of thing you'd get like if you're, I don't know, you're planning on drilling a wall. You've got a little detector. You wave it over the wall. It's like beep beep beep. Okay, that's basically like where there's a little, you know, wire. There's a wire going through the wall there. You'll avoid that if you're going to drill into the wall, right? With this, it's like, well, there's nothing there. But are there fluctuations anyway? There's natural fluctuations. If they happen on command, that's interesting. I don't think it proves a ghost, but it proves something unexplained. Could it be possible that there are other explanations and other things that might influence electromagnetic fields? Maybe. Could there be trickery involved? Possibly. What do we know? Not a lot, really. We have to rely on the honesty of the participants, the security control conditions of the location, and from there, it's a matter of some debate.
I would like to ask you to do that again. Could you make it flicker one more time, please?
Nothing.
Whenever you like. Hopefully. Thank you.
No freaking way.
Okay, that's almost like it's on command. Thing is, though, that's happened only twice at that location. For trying to do this for a while, they get that. It looks like they're going to do the same thing there. So let's have a look at this again.
I want us to stay here and try to communicate with you. On the count of 3, make them light up. 1, 2, 3. Boy, you really don't want us to stay, do you? I think we may. Are we invading your space? Are we invading your
Fluctuates
space?
there.
Yeah.
I could, you know, easily make those things fluctuate just by running a wire nearby, either an existing wire or one brought along, which then would be have a charge running through it, which would cause a fluctuation in the electrical field, which would be detected by those two devices. So it's not implausible. In fact, they're both going off. It's suggestive that they're both being affected by some kind of localized force. Now, you might say that's a ghost. Why would a ghost have an electromagnetic charge? Why wouldn't it? Okay. Are there other explanations and ways of doing this? Yeah. I'm not saying they're liars. I'm just saying it's possible they are, or possible that some kind of trickery could be going on. And I think it just remains something which is, pardon me, something which is unexplained. You know, it's something which is interesting, yes. Do we know what it is? Because, like I've said before, I've made this point many times before, and it's a valid point. When you end up with a test or experiment regarding the paranormal, the spiritualists say it's ghosts, the Christians might say it's demons, and the Muslims might say it's their own version of demons, their idea of jinns and other mischievous demonic forces, right? So, it varies, and of course, if you get into the extreme of like pagans, they might say some kind of nature, spirit, or you know whatever. Some people who are Norse mythology kind of pagans, they might imagine it's some kind of lesser spirit associated with the trickster god Loki. Is it? I think I can't remember. I don't know enough about mythology to quote that, but there are many things like that too. So interesting, but not really confirmation. Confirmation of something unexplained, maybe, if the conditions are controlled and the people are honest.
Do you not want us here?
Come on.
Are we bothering you?
Come on.
1, 2, 3. Oh, there they go. We're bothering.
There's a fluctuation. There's also a fluctuation in the camera for some reason.
This is a bit odd.
We want to help you.
Oh my god.
Do you not want our help? If you do not want our help, light them up. 1, 2, 3.
Oh my gosh.
I don't understand.
Now that box of trickery right there. You know, anyone who would know how to do that. I mean, the specific timing, everything else, it just seems to be a bit dodgy. Why does the guy move his hand towards them as well? I don't know. Why are there fluctuations in the camera? Could you basically have a device that releases a small electrical field? Yeah, you could actually. It's not easy to, not difficult to set up. It's easy enough to do. You don't have to be Nikola Tesla and have some kind of Tesla coil in the room. But yeah, you can actually, you can do stuff like that if you so wish. And if you're a ghost hunting group and you want these kind of hits every so often, just keep people interested. Oh, we got some phenomena here, we got some phenomena there. I can understand why some people would fake it, or fake it by accident. By there is a wire here, and power fluctuates through it. It's connecting to whichever device, which could be on standby, could be active, could relate to security cameras or anything, depending on the location. And yeah, the power level fluctuates based on utility and certain other fluctuations which may happen for whichever reason, depending on how a device is used or wired up or whatever the case may be. And mild fluctuations are detected when you end up with these slight surges. Now, these are very small surges, or can be, due to the proximity, perhaps, of these devices to a potential like live wire source or something which would be sufficient as to cause a fluctuation. In other words, we are talking about a very small level, and indeed a lot of these investigators set the sensitivity of these devices, these EMF meters, is it? Yeah, EMF meters, electromagnetic field meters, to maximum. So when they set them to maximum, you're going to get profound shifts based on truly, you know, tiny, like extraordinarily small electromagnetic fluctuations.
Keep the cameras rolling.
Oh my god.
Are you recording?
What's the name of the town we're in?
That's the radio thing.
I got a really hard one for you, folks. What am I holding in my hands?
I'm not sure if that sounded like it was that. It said the town first, and it said the thing, or that's what they said. It just sounded like to me, but that's easy to trick as well. In fact, there's is it Marcello Bassi? I can't remember now. As an Italian spiritualist who I think he might be dead now, or technically not dead if you're a believer, but he basically used to have a radio that was stripped out, so it could not detect radio signals, tune in anymore. And it used to detect voices. However, you could adapt the device to pick up localized signals if you wanted to. If you know anything about electronic radio, not even repair, but alteration, or how to create a localized field, you could do that. And you could use another device in the room, or perhaps nearby in another room, adjacent room, to basically allow you to pick up certain signals, or to send certain signals to the other radio, because it's localized. There wouldn't be a way of checking that, per se. Although I'm sure people have had problems with their other radios when they brought them in. So it's suggestive that the signal is in fact localized. So could they be using the same tricks that have been around for a long time to get the same sort of results? It's debatable. I don't know. So it's unexplained. We don't have enough data to say either way. But there are more reasonable explanations. It didn't sound very impressive to me, the audio. Shall we go over it again? Because I can probably increase the volume on my end. Let's see what we get.
We're in. What's the name of the town we're in?
See, that seemed very shoehorned in, didn't it? You know, I mean, that's the argument. If a ghost is communicating, why wouldn't they be clear? But it's also like if someone's pulling a trick, why wouldn't they make it clear? So it still leaves things up in the air. You know, if that was just coming through the radio randomly, it's like, how do you explain that? But if there are other explanations in terms of how you can actually rig things up, well, you can rig things up, can't you?
I got a really hard one for you, folks. What am I holding in my hands? Binocular.
That sounded like, you know, didn't sound like much. Maybe it did to you, but not to me.
Huh? Who's doing that? What's your name? Who just turned on the flashlight? Who did? Can you turn on any of the other lights on the mantle there? Turn that one off, please. Thank you.
Well, I'm a little bit suspicious of that. I'm going to leave this compilation here. There's another, well, 34 minutes, well, just below that. 33 and a half minutes. So yeah, basically you can go and check that out if you really want to. But I think I'm going to leave that one there. As far as video evidence, I'm not sure it's really evidential of anything serious, but I'm sure many believers would say that it is, that it confirms stuff. But it seems to be a bit too convenient in some places, in some cases, and that raises levels of doubt. I would say to anyone who thinks that they know it is in fact a ghost or spirit, I would ask, how do you know? Which would lead to some probably very nebulous answers, or perhaps some very specific ones for that matter, where you think you have some kind of extra sensory perception. But no, I don't think there's any real solid level of evidence to this, because evidence is more conclusive, if you get my drift. I would say it's interesting, but we don't have enough data to say what it actually is. I mean, that's the boring answer, isn't it? You know, the boring view of the skeptic, the cold, hard, you know, view of the world is basically, we haven't got enough data yet. Not enough data? What about this? And it's like, well, that's not more data. That's, you've got a video outside of controlled conditions, allegedly. There's no one else who could have done it. There's no trick, allegedly, outside of controlled conditions. We don't know who's doing this. Do we trust the people and their, you know, situation, everyone in the group? Is there any possibility of trickery? And as a result, we have to say, well, we don't know. It seems doubtful, but technically there's a possibility. But also, it's like we can't really say what it is. And it's not a 50-50 thing. Don't just think, hey, it's either true or fakers, in the absolute sense. Sometimes it is people who are non-intentionally causing incidents, or sometimes it's some mixture of ideas. Sometimes some people in the group are playing tricks and others aren't. Some people are embellishing things and others aren't. Sometimes there's some trickery with some of the video footage after an event. So it varies. It really does vary. There isn't just simply a two-answer thing. It's either it must be a ghost or it must be, you know, a con artist. Instead, it's more like there's a whole bunch of potential ideas on how a thing could be tricked, either intentionally or non-intentionally. There's also a whole bunch of things that it could be, or, you know, could be claimed to be, if you say it's something which is actually paranormal, unexplainable by any recognized means. And so when you get down to that, like I've said before, you could say, hey, it's demons, or you could say, hey, it's, I don't know, some kind of trickster god, or some kind of, I don't know, fairy, or whatever. So it's very easy to come up with, you know, many conclusions, and people tend to base their conclusions on their own biases. So I would say it fits into the realm of the unexplained, because of the lack of data. That's the fundamental. The lack of data you have regarding a subject matter of this kind basically means that you cannot say that you know a thing is what you might believe it to be. So because you have a lack of data to say it must be this, you get to the position where you may well say, well, it can't be explained. And if you get to that position, good for you. In which case you say, well, it just can't be explained. It is unexplained. It is not explained by the surrounding phenomena. And as a result, you know, that is it, But if you're willing to go further than that and say, well, it must be caused by this, then you have a lot of proving, a lot of effort to actually confirm that as being the case. And if you're simply a person who's just going to say, well, I don't know, or you might be a person who just says it can't be anything. It must be this. It must be explainable. And you're probably right, but a certain level of reasonable doubt is required. And where you end up with some of these organisations getting consistent results, whereas any other person, any other fucker doesn't actually get any fucking results. You've got to ask yourself, are they getting results because of something special? Or are they getting results because of something which is deceptive? It does make you wonder. And that's the thing about these videos. I'm giving my opinion and giving my logic on the matter, why I choose not to believe these things. I would hesitate to jump in, as many people do. And very often there's far more reasonable positions to have than saying it must be the ghost that the medium was on about. Because that's the thing when you end up with mediums going. I don't think this group does it with the medium, though. Maybe they do. But where the medium will say, oh, I'm sensing this, I'm sensing that, or a sensitive or channeler will say the same. Same thing by a different name. And they'll give out information, then something happens. Someone feels like they've been touched, they hear a creaking floorboard, an unexplained noise or dragging, and then they say, well, this must prove that the medium was right. But it's like, well, maybe there's a ghost there who disagrees with what the medium was talking about. Or maybe there's a demon that disagrees. Or maybe there's any number of other ideas. So it's still up in the air. That's the key thing. So you must, if you are in fact serious about these kind of investigations, logically you must, withhold your opinion and your potentially biased conclusions until you actually know something in a more concrete way. Because until you reach that position, until you get to that particular position where you can say, it seems to be almost certainly this, I think you're jumping the gun.